Well, hello there, beautiful and wise people. Welcome to Spiritual Conversation, honest and joyful explorations of ideas to help us align with our true spiritual purpose and live our best lives. I am your host, Jacqueline Clare, mermaid of the airwaves, here to take your hand and go on some deep dives together. And today, is the promised episode, my personal thoughts about the not so great reset. I would just like to preface this episode, perhaps needlessly, but nonetheless, that though I am a proud Texan, I come to you from the point of view informed by my own deepening, my own study, my own understanding of the sacred writings of my faith, the Baha'i faith. Baha'u'llah, in addition to giving the mystical and personal teachings that, animate most great world faiths, also has provided a divinely inspired blueprint for the unification, the kingdom of God on earth. And this is the perspective I have been brought up in, and it is a matter of religious conviction for me that ultimately the world is destined to, through our adherence to divine philosophy and also through our own intelligence and ingenuity, as our intelligence progresses alongside our moral and spiritual development, that we will create a beautiful, prophecy worthy kingdom of God on earth where everyone is cared for and the world is beautiful and prosperous and harmonious and jiving. And also, I don't know if this is relevant, but I do want to share that, I'm very concerned about the environment. When I was a teenager, I was the one who made sure that at my local places of meeting and Baha'i Center that there were recycling bins, and I didn't have a car for a lot of my young life because I thought that it was really wasteful. And that when I was in elementary school, and still to this day, my happy sound is the music on NPR's All Things Considered. That was my sound of comfort that was played every morning as I was getting ready for school. So I just want you to know that that is the background and perspective that I am coming from as I address this new thing called the Great Reset. Now, I just started hearing this phrase in the last several weeks. Most famously, the Prime Minister of Canada gave a talk about rebuilding past the global economic devastation from COVID, and he used the phrase Great Reset, that this is now an opportunity to not just go back to the old normal, but rather to continue to push forward plans that were in place pre-COVID, and now that things are getting close to a nice happy flatlining, is a chance to essentially reset. Now, I understand it to be just another phrase to describe Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and these are plans that were constructed and set in motion several years back. And it's a top-down design of smart people who have ostensibly created a path and models for mitigating environmental degradation as the population of the earth increases, and as it is perceived as necessary to create controlled structures to essentially delegate resources. So it has to do with the growing population, with resource distribution, economic and otherwise, and taking care of the environment. And that all sounds good. That all sounds really good. And the language used and the ostensible purpose is for inclusivity, for sustainability, for equality. All these things where it's like, yeah, please, yes, this is the world we want to live in, right? Couple problems that I see with this. First off, the fact that most of my listeners are not going to know much about the Great Reset or Agenda 2030, like in any sort of detail, and that some of you maybe even don't even know what it is at all. And the fact that these plans, which are, entail restrictions and regulations and policies and mandates that will hugely impact individuals' lives. Like, should they be enacted, this isn't just other people who are going to learn to live in a more sustainable way. It's everyone whose ownership of private property, the size of the space that they live in, their ability to be mobile, like all of these things will be hugely impacted according to these blueprints within the next 10 plus years. And the fact that most of us don't know much about this plan that has been constructed ostensibly for the betterment of the world, which includes us, but we haven't been contributors, should be a little bit of a red flag for everyone, in my opinion. And again, I just want to state that it is a matter of religious conviction for me that ultimately the world is meant to, through our own efforts and spiritual evolution and application of intelligence coupled with morality, create a sustainable future wherein everyone is cared for. But anyone who has read a history book knows that when there is a situation in place where there is a small group of people with incredible power that dictates how other people live, how the mass of people live. And again, I want to remind you, since most people don't even know much of what this means, and the fact that in the same week the New York Times called it a conspiracy theory and Time magazine had this like glowing thing about it, there's obviously a lot of confusion and lack of understanding and disclosure about how exactly these decisions are being made for sustainability and equity in economic life. Like, the fact that most of us don't understand it is evident that this is a classic example of a small group of people making decisions under the guise of virtue, under the guise of something that in theory every person of sound mind and tender heart can get behind. But decisions are being made for us, not collectively. And I believe that it is our birthright and our destiny to get to that point spiritually, but it is going to be a sea change. Like this, it's going to be through the transformation of our hearts and a genuine collaboration, and not just a few people, even fewer of whom we know their names, making these kinds of decisions. And the Prime Minister pointed out, he's very straightforward about the pandemic offering us this opportunity to reset, since conveniently so many things have deteriorated. And I like completely oppositely agree with him that 2020 has been a gift on so many levels, but one thing that I feel anyone who's really been paying attention will notice, that it has shown us the integrity and spiritual awareness of many of the people in our world who are in positions of power. And there are countless examples, which I'm not going to name any names. You could email me or something if you wanted maybe some more in-depth uh, pointers here. But I think once I say this, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. I think most people are at least peripherally aware, if not very clearly aware, that there have been many instances this year where the exact same governors, senators, high level sort of health or science celebrities enforcing, voting for, suggesting restrictions on the average citizen, like, don't open your mouth when you're outside, don't, be with your family on Thanksgiving, don't eat in public, don't, go to sports events or whatever, who, in some instances, hours or days after they had, concurred or implemented some restriction for others, violated it themselves in, I would say, almost ostentatious ways. People shouldn't be allowed to go out and eat, except then they go out and eat, and never was a mask seen, never were they social distancing, and I don't care. I don't care that this person went out and, didn't wear a mask and whatever. It's their own life. But it's the fact that these people are in positions to control what other people do, and then they're not following it themselves. It's rules for thee, not for me. It's a double standard. And it shows that there's something amiss, not just a lack of integrity and honesty. Apparently they don't believe in what they're preaching, because obviously they're not scared, or they're availing themselves of, HCQ or things that help assure them, that their chances of getting sick are limited. And these aren't things you can just apologize for. It isn't the same as just like saying something insensitive, that just kind of comes out of your mouth. These are conscious choices. No one gets on a plane or RSVPs to a fancy dinner party and goes through the process of like getting dressed and going there and being there and not having a mask or whatever they've been promoting. It isn't like they forgot. You know what I mean? It's inexcusable. So it's been such a gift to show humanity and to remind us that we are not at the place where we can put our complete trust in people who are making decisions that impact our lives extremely deeply. How many people didn't get together with their families on Thanksgiving? How many people have not been able to touch their elderly relatives in nursing homes this year? And we have been shown that people are not spiritually mature enough to have the keys of all humanity in their hands, which is essentially what this whole great reset thing is. So again, I think what they talk about sounds good, and I'm not proposing that I have exactly the plan on how to upraise the poorest people on the planet Earth right now. But I do feel extremely strongly that just hoping for solutions and putting our trust in the hands of people who have proven themselves, nakedly so, this year especially, to not be integrous, to not truly be fair, no matter what they say, their actions prove otherwise. It's just a good reminder, we're not there yet. And it is through, it's a hundred monkey thing, I believe. It's as each of us continue to polish our own spiritual lives, burnish and polish our own spiritual reality, and have discourses and relationships and raise children where that is perpetuated, that we will then be able to build this glorious and just reality together. But we mustn't let go of the reins, because the so-called leaders of the world, again, governors, senators, heads of XY bank or institution, we're not there yet. I would like to share with you some writings of Shoghi Effendi. Don't be triggered, from the world order of Baha'u'llah. And this is the future that owns my heart. And this is the exact what is not happening at this moment, and especially with these proposed plans. I'm just going to read some of it to you and let you ponder it. The unity of the human race as envisaged by Baha'u'llah. And that's key here. Not envisaged by anyone else. I don't want anyone else's plan for how to unify the world. I want a divinely inspired plan that is carried out by people of integrity and who are spiritually sound, who are using the proper blueprint. Implies the establishment of a world commonwealth in which all nations, races, creeds, and classes are closely and permanently united. Well, that sounds good. That sounds like what's on the table, right? We want that, yes. And in which the autonomy of its state members and this is so huge, you guys, listen to this, the personal freedom and initiative of the individuals that compose them are definitely and completely safeguarded. The personal freedoms and initiative of the individuals, the ability to take initiative, the ability to make decisions for your own life, to start your own businesses, whatever that means to you, are not only allowed, they are definitely and completely safeguarded. It is a world commonwealth system that safeguards the individual rights and freedom and initiative of all of the individuals that it represents and protects. All. I'm passionate today. It talks about a mechanism of a world intercommunication will be devised. We kind of have that, right? We've advanced, but this is key. Embracing the whole planet, freed from national hindrances and restrictions. You know, there are countries where you can't access certain information, where our country is like that, and you've seen all the warning labels and stuff. Like, our own access to information is being restricted for reasons of vested interests. So this is categorically not part of the unity of the human race envisaged by Baha'u'llah, as articulated by Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith. Talks about an auxiliary language in addition to the mother tongue of nations, and a system of economics and a system of measurement, all of these things that will make, commerce and exchange easier in the world, and communication. This is good. The press, the media, the press, the newspapers will, under such a system, while giving full scope to the expression of the diversified views and convictions of mankind, full scope to the diversified views and convictions of mankind, cease to be mischievously manipulated by vested interests, whether private or public, and will be liberated from the influence of contending governments and peoples. Isn't that amazing? Until we have that, until we have the ability to communicate without restriction with people all over the world, and when we have a press that is integrous, that reflects the diversity of humankind and human point of view, that is liberated from their own mischievous manipulations and the vested interests of private and public sources, we don't have the tools to effectively know what's going on and communicate and be collaborative. So I don't know what order all of these things are going to fall into place, but this is categorically part of the vision of Baha'u'llah. And this speaks to just how far we are from it at this moment, because the press is completely one-sided and it is not representative of diversified views, and it is completely mischievously manipulated, and there are private and public vested interests blatantly at this point. Another gift of 2020. I think things in our personal lives have bubbled to the surface and collectively, and it's really hard. It's really hard to deal with the full force of whatever disease is there, but it's good because you have to wear your sunglasses at night to not be seeing these things right now. And this is the last thing I'll read to you, which I think is just super awesome. The enormous energy dissipated and wasted on war, whether economic or political. The energy is economic and political, will be consecrated to such ends as will extend the range of human inventions and technical development. So when we're not wasting time and money on war, we can apply those resources and that intelligence to better things, to the increase of the productivity of mankind, to the extermination of disease, to the extension of scientific research, to the raising of the standard of physical health, to the sharpening and refinement of the human brain, to the exploitation of the unused and unsuspected resources of the planet, to the prolongation of human life, and to the furtherance of any other agency that can stimulate the intellectual, the moral, and the spiritual life of the entire human race. So that is the aim. So what I would like to leave you with, because I've been thinking about this a lot the last several days, I don't want to just be a voice of negativity, far from it. I think that each of us have a responsibility to know that we are incredibly powerful. And we are also incredibly wise. Each of us is the wisest person to make decisions in our own lives. And as such, we have a responsibility to investigate, to pay attention to what's happening in the world. Don't just trust that the bus you're on is going in the right direction. It might be driving off a cliff, So what does this mean in practical terms? Well, for me personally, it's really galvanized me to deepen even deeper on my own faith, to not just kind of vaguely know what my faith is about and what the social and societal teachings are, but to really dig in and deepen. Because again, those buzzwords like sustainability, like inclusivity, like equality are very attractive. But it's like, what does that mean and how are we doing that? And I want to understand from my own faith perspective, like what gifts have already been given and laid out in terms of that, in terms of the how. So I really want to take my own study deeper, and I want both spiritually and the practical side of my spirituality, and then also just keep paying attention to what's going on in the world and doing research and being a voice. And I've mentioned this several times to you guys, to like pray to see the truth and pray to be guided, to be a constructive force at this time and not a passive observer. And I'm kind of done with having other people tell me what things mean or what to think. So don't let me do that to you. Like, let this just be a springboard for your own thought process and investigation. I think it will happen, you guys. And I think that the transformation of the world from a spiritual standpoint is always just one generation away. Like, really, it's about us changing and about raising a next generation that has deep integrity. And we help inspire that by modeling it as best we can, and also teaching it, of course, and nurturing our spiritual reality. That's where I am today. My thoughts always evolve. I'll keep you updated. Thank you for joining me in this kind of rant, but I think I expressed to you what I wanted to. I will have a special Christmas holiday episode coming up this month, and my last episode, I believe it's the 29th, it's the last Tuesday of 2020, will be an interview with Corinne Coben, who is an end-of-life or death doula. Really super fascinating that she helps people spiritually transition to the next life and also helps the families through that process. And I thought it'd be a really timely conversation to have to finish out 2020. So, there you go, my friends. Please remember to subscribe. You're welcome to comment on YouTube. I encourage you to like this video. You can also message me through my website, jacquelinclaireart.com/contact. And I believe in you. I believe in you, your wisdom and your capacity, both that which you are aware of and that which you are not. And I wish you the best for playing your part to make this world a better place. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.